You should be grateful we even let you stand in family photos." My older sister said it loud enough for everyone at my cousin's engagement party to hear. People laughed, not because it was funny, but because they were used to it. For 24 years my family called me the ugly one. Not behind closed doors, not as a joke. At birthdays, weddings, church dinners, Facebook comments. My mother used to tell people, God gave one daughter beauty, and the other personality. That other daughter was me. I learned to smile through humiliation, learned how to crop myself out of pictures before anyone else could. But the worst part? It wasn't the insults. It was the feeling that something about me never fit. Different eyes, different smile, different everything. And the night my grandmother died, a stranger walked into the funeral home, stared directly at me and whispered, "They lied to you your whole life." Then he handed me an envelope with my name on it. And suddenly, my family's hatred finally made sense. I grew up in a small town outside Nashville where appearances mattered more than honesty. My sister Ava looked like she belonged in magazines. Blonde hair, perfect smile, cheer captain. Meanwhile, I got my dad's dark curls, sharp nose, and pale skin that never tanned right. At least, that's what I thought. Every family gathering felt like a competition I never signed up for. "Why can't you dress prettier like Ava?" my mom would sigh. "She got the good genes," my aunt would add. Even as a kid, they said it right in front of me. One Thanksgiving, I was 13 when my uncle laughed and said, "Well, at least one daughter will marry rich." Everyone looked at Ava. Then silence. I still remember gripping my plastic fork under the table so hard it snapped in my hand. Nobody defended me. Not even Dad. Actually, especially not Dad. That was the strange part. He barely looked at me growing up. With Ava he'd beam with pride. Take photos. Buy gifts. With me. Polite distance. Like a teacher speaking to a student he didn't know very well. Sometimes I caught him staring at me with this uncomfortable expression. Almost nervous. Then he'd quickly look away. As I got older, the comments became crueler. When I was 16, my mom refused to hang my school portrait above the fireplace. "It ruins the aesthetic," she whispered to Dad. She thought I didn't hear. But I heard everything in that house. By college, I stopped trying to fit in. I worked 2 jobs, rented a tiny apartment, and avoided family events whenever possible. Still, somehow they always found ways to humiliate me. Especially Ava. She loved making little comments in public. "Oh my God, Emma, are you really wearing that? Maybe try contouring your nose. You'd actually be pretty if you lost 10 pounds. The worst part? People acted like it was normal sister behavior. Like cruelty became acceptable if the target was already labeled the ugly one. Then came my cousin Natalie's engagement party. The night everything started unraveling. The venue was beautiful. String lights, live music, expensive champagne. I almost didn't go. But Grandma Ruth begged me. "You're the only real heart left in this family," she told me softly over the phone. Grandma Ruth was the only person who ever looked at me with warmth. She used to brush my hair when I was little and say, "One day, the truth always finds daylight." Back then, I never understood what she meant. At the engagement party, Ava arrived wearing a glittering silver dress that immediately pulled attention from everyone else. And of course, my mother spent the entire evening showing off photos of Ava's new modeling campaign. Meanwhile, I sat quietly near the dessert table until I overheard something strange. My dad arguing with Grandma Ruth near the hallway. Their voices were low, tense. "You should have told her years ago," Grandma snapped. Dad's voice cracked. "We agreed never to speak about it again. She deserves the truth. And destroy this family?" I froze. My heart started pounding. Truth? What truth? Before I could hear more, Ava suddenly grabbed my arm. "Oh good, there you are," she said loudly. Then she dragged me toward a group of people near the dance floor. One of her friends smirked. "Ava was just telling us how different you two look." Ava laughed while sipping champagne. "Trust me, we know." Everyone chuckled awkwardly. Then she looked directly at me and said, "Honestly, sometimes I wonder if the hospital accidentally swapped her." More laughter. But this time, nobody noticed Dad's face turning completely white. And across the room, Grandma Ruth looked like she was about to cry. That same night, just hours later, Grandma Ruth collapsed in her kitchen. And before the ambulance arrived, she whispered something that changed everything. "Find the envelope." Grandma Ruth died 2 days later. The funeral brought the entire family together, dressed in black, pretending to care about each other for one afternoon. I stood near the back of the chapel, invisible as usual, until Ava decided to make me the entertainment again. "You know," she whispered loudly to a few cousins, "Grandma probably left Emma a mirror in her will, so she could finally face reality." They laughed. Even at a funeral, my chest burned, but I stayed quiet. Then came the real humiliation. After the service, my mother stood near the entrance greeting guests when an older woman approached her. She smiled politely at me and said, "Oh wow, your younger daughter looks nothing like the rest of you." The room went silent. Mom's smile disappeared instantly. Before I could react, Ava laughed. "That's because she inherited every bad gene possible." People chuckled again. But this time Dad slammed his glass onto the table so hard everyone jumped. "Enough," he shouted. The entire room froze. I had never seen him angry before. Mom quickly grabbed his arm. "Calm down." But Dad looked terrified. Not angry. Then it happened. A tall gray-haired man walked through the funeral home doors. Nobody recognized him except Grandma's old lawyer. The stranger looked directly at me. Not at Ava. Not at my parents. Me. His eyes filled with emotion. "You have her eyes," he whispered. My stomach tightened. "What?" He slowly pulled out a sealed envelope. "Ruth asked me to give you this personally, after she passed." Dad immediately stepped forward. "No." The stranger ignored him. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was an old photograph of a woman holding a newborn baby. The woman looked exactly like me, and written on the back were 6 terrifying words. "This is your real mother." I looked up in shock, but the stranger's next sentence hit even harder. "Your family stole you from her." I couldn't breathe. The funeral room spun around me as everyone started shouting at once. "That's a lie," my mother screamed. Dad looked like he might collapse. Ava stared at me in complete shock. And me? I felt like my entire life had cracked open in seconds. I ran out of the funeral home before anyone could stop me. For 3 days I ignored every call, every text, every apology. I locked myself inside my apartment staring at that photograph over and over again. The woman in the picture had my eyes, my smile, my face, not my mother's, mine. Suddenly every childhood memory felt poisoned. The distance from Dad, the cruel comments, the way I never truly belonged. I stopped eating, stopped sleeping. At one point, I stood in my bathroom mirror wondering if my entire existence had been fake. Then came the voicemail. Dad's voice was shaking. "She was never supposed to find out. Not you. She. Like I was some problem they failed to contain." That broke me more than anything else. But later that night, another message arrived. Not from my family. From the stranger. "Your mother is alive, Emma." My hands froze. Then his final text appeared. "And she's been searching for you for 24 years. The stranger's name was Daniel Mercer. He met me at a quiet coffee shop outside the city the next morning. I barely slept the night before. Daniel explained everything slowly. 24 years ago, my biological mother, Claire, had been young, poor, and alone after a serious car accident during childbirth. While she recovered, legal papers were manipulated. Money exchanged hands. And somehow, my parents took me. Illegally. I stared at him in disbelief. Why would they do that? Daniel hesitated, then quietly answered, "Because your mother was your father's affair." My world stopped. Dad hadn't avoided me out of disgust. He avoided me out of guilt. And my mother? She raised the living proof of betrayal under her own roof for 2 decades. Suddenly every insult made sense. Every cold stare. Every cruel joke. I wasn't the ugly one. I was the secret they hated seeing every day. Then Daniel handed me a small folded paper. An address. "Claire lives in Seattle now," he said softly. I stared at the address for a long moment. Terrified. Hopeful. Broken. Then Daniel said one sentence that changed everything. She never stopped loving you. Meeting Claire felt unreal. The second she opened the door, she burst into tears before I even spoke. Then she hugged me so tightly, like she'd been waiting her whole life for that moment. Because she had. Inside her house were boxes, hundreds of them, filled with letters she wrote to me every birthday, every Christmas, every year she searched for me. But the biggest shock came days later. Daniel uncovered the truth publicly. My father had paid hospital officials to alter records after his affair destroyed 2 families. And Grandma Ruth knew the entire time. That's why she protected me. That's why she finally exposed everything before dying. The scandal destroyed my parents socially. Church friends disappeared. Business clients left. And Ava? She called me crying one night. I didn't know, she whispered. For the first time in our lives. She sounded small. But the real revenge wasn't their downfall. It was this. I finally understood there was never anything wrong with my face. Their cruelty had nothing to do with beauty. I was simply the evidence of a lie they couldn't erase. Months later, I posted a photo online with Claire beside me. No filters. No edits. Just us smiling. The caption said, "The ugly one was never ugly. Just unwanted by the wrong people."